Hello, everyone. Great to be here. You know, it's a important topic, older women in money and financial security. I've written about a couple of books on this stuff, and this team is amazing. So we've got JoAnne. I guess you've already had a bit of an introduction, but JoAnne, of course, the Vice President of Thought Leadership at Corebridge Financial. To my left here, Annamaria Lusardi, who is a professor at the Stanford Graduate School of Business and a senior fellow at the Stanford Institute for Economic Policy Research, and Cindy Hounsell, who is the president and founder of the Women's Institute for Secure Retirement, or WISER. So we're in good hands here with this conversation, and let you set the stage for us.
Thank you, Kerry. Is this working? Okay, excellent. Hello, everyone. Thank you for your time today. Yesterday was phenomenal, and I think today is actually starting out even stronger. If I could channel Dr. Yolanda Page and everything that I do, my goodness, that was an incredible session to start the day. But just to give you a little background, Corebridge Financial, we're a financial services organization that focuses on helping people prepare for retirement. And just to give you some background, about 5 years ago, we decided to formally put in place a thought leadership program, largely to the guidance and insight of my friend and colleague, Chris Soderay, who was sitting over there. We had worked together in previous companies on survey programs and really wanted to focus on doing something very special here. And what that meant was we do focus on a number of topics, but we really wanted to dive into the topic of longevity and challenge many of the concepts built around aging, and honestly, just around age in general. At that time, I was introduced to Ken Stern, I think probably about 4 years ago or so, Ken, right? By way of Martha. Martha Devi and I had worked together on a World Economic Forum program on longevity and retirement. She made this introduction, and we started working together then on our annual longevity survey called Funding Longer Lives. So we're going to be releasing in the next few months the latest findings from our survey that we fielded the end of 2024. But a decision we made last year was to focus in and start doing some work really focused in on women and retirement and money. So we started then. There we go. We fielded a survey called Women Speak Out on money matters. So what I'm going to do today is just really walk you through some of these findings. I have 20 slides, and probably I'm going to do it in 4 minutes. So I'm going to move pretty quickly. And then we will go and we'll have a more deep discussion. A lot of this content, there's a lot of more details of what we do on our website, corebridgefinancial.com. So you can find a lot more details about that. But I'm just going to take you through some of the few highlights from this. And I'm going to start by setting the stage of what everybody here knows, what everybody joining us virtually knows. Women earn less, right? Equal pay day in 2024 was March 12th. I believe this year they're saying it's going to be about March 25th. For Black women last year, it was July 9th. And the reason I like this is we do often hear about how women earn less than men, but to me, this really puts a visual picture in my head that women need to work this many days into the following year to make what men have done in the previous year in 12 months. We pay more. Our annual health costs, women's health costs are so much more. And I will plug the Century Lives podcast. This morning, Ken, I did listen to the newest episode. It dropped yesterday. It's on women and health. It was sobering. It was also inspiring to see the changes that are being made and the people that are leading that change and understanding women's health. But did you know that being a woman was a pre-existing health condition for getting insurance, just by nature of being a woman, that we had to pay more? And we live longer. Interestingly, 78% of centenarians in the United States are women. Globally, it's 85%. So we dug in a little bit on living longer, and we've asked this every year: do you want to live longer? You may have gotten that question in the survey for the summit this year, and what we found with women is just about half say, yeah, I want to live to 100, just a little bit over half. And nearly half say they do not want to live to 100. Top concerns are health problems, quality of life, running out of money, having independence, and being a burden on family. But there are benefits as well. And when we spoke about the benefits and learned about the benefits, it was that continued meaningful relationships with family, with loved ones, with friends, more time to explore and have new experiences, witness new discoveries, and watch the world evolve. We are definitely seeing the world evolve these days very quickly. More years of leisure. The interesting thing is very few people selected the option of being more productive and working longer across the board. So how do women define a successful life? About 2 in 3 say that financial independence, comfortably living the lifestyle of their choosing, and providing for their family are top priorities. For older women nearing retirement and retirement, saving for retirement makes sense, is how they would say they have a successful life. For younger women, it's career success. Top financial concerns, these aren't a surprise. Inflation, running out of money in retirement, retiring comfortably, paying off credit card debt, having little to no money invested. For Gen Z, Millennial, and Gen X women, budgeting is key. Interest rate changes, big challenge for baby boomer women. Financial health is reported as a mixed picture. Less than half say their financial health is good. About 1 in 3 say it's neither good nor bad, and at least 1 in 4 say that it's pretty bad. And just to kind of a side note, the reason we do this is so that we can better understand and not make assumptions for those that we serve. And the reason we focus too on the generations is because it makes it a little bit easier to quantify how we can serve people in different life stages. But we do recognize that numbers to a degree lie. It really is in the individual situation and having to get to those deeper, more finite targeted groups that we can make some change. Barriers to action. Women are not taking action because they don't know where to begin. 1 in 3 say they don't know where to begin or they find it too stressful. Procrastination. I am probably most people are well acquainted with how that can keep us from moving forward. And 1 in 4 point to competing priorities. Saving for 30-year retirement is a true concern. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Women live longer. They're more likely to spend more years in retirement. They're more likely to have less savings for retirement, and they're more likely to be in poorer health. So we asked, how long do you think your money will last in retirement? 1 in 4 say they have enough money, or they think that they will have enough money. It will last less than 10 years. 20% say between 10 and 20. Only 1 in 3 think it'll last between 20 years or more, and 2 out of 10 say they have no idea how long their money will last in retirement. Confidence is low. I think that kind of was edified in the previous slide. 1 in 3 say that only 1 in 3 feel confident in their ability to make a plan and to manage their money for retirement. And I won't get into all the numbers on this slide, but it's not necessarily improvement as we look across age. What we're hoping is that we see with Gen Z, with Generation Alpha, that there will be stronger and more consistent confidence. But for those who have a plan, or those who say if they were to have a plan, they would definitely have an increase in confidence. Not only in their retirement and their future financial well-being, but even in their day-to-day life today. So if they've had a plan to have financial income for as long as they live outside of Social Security, their own plan, that would make their current level of happiness today better, and would make them more willing to spend money on the things that make them happy. Top retirement topics, Social Security options, understanding Social Security, how Medicare works. One of the things that we do with the research that we do at Corebridge is turn that into content that can help people take action. So we've created something called our Action Planner series. So when we see this, that we know Social Security is a top concern, and knowing how to navigate it and how to make these choices, knowing that Medicare is a challenge, we've created action planners specifically on these topics. I have a very good friend who works at Yale. She's closing in on retirement. We spoke last week. She's like, I need to find somebody that I can hire to teach me how Medicare works. And I emailed her a PDF right from our website so that she could figure that out. And that's why we do what we do. We also are looking quite a bit. So many of the stories that we heard today, Dr. Page said it again this morning, is how we can learn from each other, these intergenerational conversations. So a lot of this work that we did last year focused on what are retired women saying that they would do. They would go back and they would have started saving earlier. They would have worked with a financial professional earlier, or even started at all, and they definitely would have contributed more to their savings plan. This doesn't sound like groundbreaking learnings, but it does help us reinforce the story. And it's through the storytelling, and it's from getting people who have experienced something to share with those who are just starting out or maybe mid-career, that we can help them drive some change in what they do. Big focus for the next year for most people is living comfortably on their income, dealing with credit card debt, making more money, getting an emergency fund in place, getting a new job. More investment in retirement education is needed. I'm whipping through this, I know, but I know we want to get to the panel. Basic money management, debt management, life insurance, retirement planning is what they know about. They would like to know more about investment strategies, alternative investments, the stock market. And many women lack financial advice. I know this is a game changer. Getting advice is a game changer. The people who do well financially, people who have money, they know that they don't do it themselves. They get the professionals to help them. So we need to make sure that there is more access provided to guidance and that that access is also utilized. It makes a difference. People are more confident. 3 in 4 women who work with financial professionals say taking action can address their concerns compared to only 1 in 2. Why aren't women working with a professional? They do it on their own. They're too expensive. I don't need one. I talk to somebody else. I don't know how to find one. I currently don't work with one, but I'd like to. And what would be most useful in planning for financial success is having somebody help them get started, which we feel can happen very much in the employer workplace, through community services, and just finding access. Taking a financial literacy course is very important to people. Money management, access to online financial tools. And the way that we can improve outcomes, I'm gonna end on this one. As we've learned, is broadening access to services and resources. But we know that increasing access isn't enough. And I'm going to use this one example. The same friend who's at Yale and is retiring soon. Last year, for the first time in a long time, she had to write a check to the federal government. She was not happy about it when she went to her accountant. She had to write a check, and she said to her accountant, I'm going into work tomorrow, and I'm going to increase my tax withholding so that I don't have this happen to me. I don't get this surprise again next year. And he looked, she said, why would you do that? You're not maxing out your 403B. Why are you going to give money? You have pre-tax. It didn't even occur to her. She's a very bright woman. So she went back. So it just shows that having access, she has access to a financial advisor through Yale, but she wasn't using it. So we have to get people to connect, to know what their resources are, and then to actually connect and use them. Remove the taboo about talking about money, because storytelling and talking with each other, me talking to my friend Kathleen, talking to my other friends about it, is key. Understand the power of incremental success and broaden financial planning conversations beyond money. We need to do an integrated approach that combines digital tools with education programs and professional guidance, and recognizing that incremental successes really can create behavioral change and lead to better outcomes. That is, I think I whipped through them pretty quickly. Hopefully not too quickly, but with that, I think we will turn it over to
JoAnne. Thank you. That was fantastic.
Thanks.
Really good material. That was super. Well, I think we're going to go right to you, Miss Cindy. Can you tell us, because you really are talking to women all the time. You're seeing from all walks of life. What are the main challenges that older women, let's specifically older women, are dealing with right now?
First, I was going to say that when I started this organization, I had the name Wiser.
Oh, microphone. It should be on. Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah,
Yes,
you're good.
okay. So I had the name Wiser, and I thought that was going to, help solve a lot of the problems for people understanding why we were teaching them about retirement when they were in their 20s or 30s or whatever. And what was interesting about that is that it fit, but today, if I were doing it again, I would be calling it Scared. Figuring out how to do that, because from all of this that JoAnne and what the reason why so many of us have been doing this for so long is because older women end up living in poverty. That's what got me motivated, and it's still happening. And I've been working on this issue. Never mind how many years, we have hundreds of years of expertise here. We have just as many older women today retiring into poverty, not having enough money to pay for even a couple of years. And so the question that you're asking me is, what are they really worried about? Running out of money and not having access to a retirement plan in the first place, which less than 50% have ever had a retirement plan. So how do you do this on your own? JoAnne is telling you how to do that, right? And Annamaria will tell you how to do that. But that's a real issue. People are always saying to me, oh, it's no problem if you don't have one at the workplace. You can just walk into any bank and open up an IRA. That takes a lot.
Yeah, but Cindy, you have some, just to follow up quickly there, some examples of once the excitement women feel when they actually start one of, even a small IRA, and they see what they're doing, right?
Yeah,
It's just
no,
like,
they're very excited.
and they want to do it.
Yeah,
It's just having
yeah.
access to do
Even
it.
the lowest income women, earning women, cafeteria women, house cleaners, they are as worried about retirement as anybody else in this room. I hope somebody's worried in this room, so.
Yeah, well, I think
Yeah.
so. Well, Annamaria, in your research, I mean, what is behind this? And I see this all the time with women. They say, money bores me, or I'm not good with numbers, or, blah, blah. It's not that. It's that they lack this confidence, right? And where does that come from? Is it cultural? Is it, what have you seen in your research?
Thank you very much, Kerry. So I have to tell you, I'm only at Stanford for a year and a half now, but one of the things I consider a great asset is conferences like this one. It's really exciting, and also having colleagues like Laura Carstensen and Marta Divi. So it's so exciting to be here, and I really want to praise them for having raised these very important issues. And I think, one of the things we have heard so much today is also how much, this is a system that doesn't really, make women successful, right, by itself. And so there is so much more than we have to do. I have to say, our research over and over and over shows this gender difference in financial literacy. And I don't know if you know this, but not only is the gender difference very persistent, is at every age group. So it's not something about the older women, it's also something present in the young women. In fact, it's actually present in every country around the world. So there is really this persistent gender difference. A big part of that gender difference is confidence, which is that women are not confident in their knowledge. And this is good and bad. So let me just tell you that the way we see this gender difference is because we ask, and we have design tests to measure financial knowledge among the women, among the topics, the ABC really of personal finance. And what we see is that not only women are more likely to be incorrect in the answer to this question, but they disproportionately, with respect to men, say, I do not know the answer to this question. So this is good, right? Because women do not know, but they know they do not know, right? So there is something good about this gender difference in financial literacy. What is good, I think, is make women more cautious, right? Women think a lot more about some of these topics. But unfortunately, I think what is bad is that some of the outcome, and we see this in one outcome in particular, which is investing, which we have also heard yet again, is that it makes women less likely to act, right? So there is a way, I think, in which women, in my view, are the best, could be the best financial advisor, in particular if they have the knowledge. But, this lack of confidence becomes fear. And I say that, because we have done exactly this experiment. We took away the do not know options in the financial literacy questions, and we forced everybody to answer. Guess what? Women know more than they think they know, right? So we could actually measure that, that 1/3 of this gender difference in financial literacy is due to confidence. And I see this in my student, by the way. When I ask a question in my personal finance class, a lot of hands go up, but it's normally not a female student. And so I ask my female student, can you answer these questions? And they can, but they did not raise their hands because they were not sure 100%, right? So unfortunately, this then pushes women not to act. And we see this because we can actually show in the data, given that we could measure confidence and knowledge, that women are less likely to participate in the stock market. Do you remember Fearless Girls? Yep. It's actually true. I think, women some of this lack of knowledge becomes fear, and it prevents them from act. And I think we really need to take down that barrier, because if you don't invest in the market, you're not going to be able to grow your wealth. And that's, a drawback for women. And I think it's important that we take down those barriers. And I've talked a lot, so I'm going to tell you the next round what we can do for that.
But it is a sense of inertia that
It is.
the fear just no
This
action.
fear prevents women from acting.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think women are afraid of making a mistakes, right? Are afraid of, entering the market. And I think rightly so, right? It's not that my suggestion is, well, you go and invest anyway.
Yeah.
Is that you need to have, build a little bit of knowledge that will prevent from, being taken back. The other thing I also want to say, and I know it was mentioned in the presentation, I'm afraid that financial advice is not a substitute for financial literacy. Meaning people who are not literate don't go to an advisor, and probably they should not, because believe me, I am Italian, and anytime I go to change to the mechanics, they want to change my engine. Okay. So again, right? You have to know which question to ask to your financial advisor.
Yeah.
So, you have to be careful that, again, there are no easy fix than at least getting this type of knowledge. The world has become very complex. And in a sense, we need to be able to navigate and acquire a little bit more skill and confidence so that we can take actions. And again, for all of the women over here, you need to invest in the stock market.
And women don't want to look stupid. That's one of they don't want to appear to be stupid. So there are no stupid questions. If you have a good financial advisor and you can find that route, you need someone you trust that you can, or if you have a situation, something can help you. But I will also say that you told me, well, one thing, when financial advisors for myself, first time I went to a financial advisor with my husband, he had been working with this guy for a long time. He never looked at me. He never looked at me. And he just addressed everything to my husband. And I said, you know what? He's not getting a dime of my money. And at that point, I was working at Forbes magazine. I actually knew quite a bit. And he just totally dissed me. And so I found a female advisor who I love, and she's been great. And my husband ended up bringing his money over there too. But I don't feel I can ask anything. And so that's important. And quickly, I'll just follow up one more thing. You said, Annamaria, you once told me that financial literacy should begin when people with the tooth fairy.
Yes, exactly. With the tooth fairy, invest that 5 cents. Right, in the long time, it's going to bring so much money, right? So
I love that.
We deal with this aging issue by starting early.
Yeah, and for young women, that's the time.
The benefits.
Yeah, JoAnne, that presentation was just knock 'em sock 'em. Thank you, great material.
Thank you.
So I'm going to back you through a little bit that you talked about there, but how does the intersection of gender and age impact our ability to save for retirement? Specifically, not necessarily like it's investing, but just how does this all come into play a little sharper?
I will say that one of the things that we see, and I didn't get too deep into this here, but we are looking very much at the different age and life stage as it comes through. And a lot of the conversations that we heard yesterday, which was when it comes to women and at what age are you taken seriously, it's just a different set of standards that I don't know that at any age. I was reading something about this last week that, you could be too young for a promotion, too old for promotion, or you're in your childbearing years. So that's going to affect your promotion. And that I do think that some of these different things, we know that there are so many different factors that affect women's ability to save for the future. So overcoming the ageism aspects that we see in the world based on gender would help that get better. But I actually want to kind of flip over to something that you talked about with inertia. And that is a topic that we are really working on understanding. In fact, I reached out to Martha last year and said, do you have anything about this? How do we get people to take action? And one of the things she told me was that there has been research done that it's very hard for people to envision something or take action towards something that they're not going to reap the rewards of anything more than 10 years out. It doesn't mean that people won't start planning for retirement earlier, but we need to find a way to get around that. We need to find a way to understand that. So what we really need to do is meet people where they are, I know that's kind of a trope that we've heard before, but to really understand the specific situations and meet people where they are, provide the services, the financial guidance, the financial professional. Honestly, we say everybody should meet with one. There aren't enough in the world for everybody to have a financial professional. So we do need other ways to get guidance out there, other ways that we can use tools, digital tools, multidimensional approaches to helping people understand and really targeting where they are in their lives so that we can speak their language.
I think that that's super important. And I think for women, even when we think about as we move to the age thing, it's pretty hard to save for retirement if you step out of the workplace to raise a family or for caregiving. And that just brings an obstacle that many men don't encounter. And now this
Yeah.
is changing a bit, but I think that that's a big
And
issue.
understanding too, like when we talk to people about maxing out their 401k contributions and doing their catch-up contributions, it just may not be feasible for people. You know, I early on being in the industry, I was a single parent, I was living paycheck to paycheck. I did max out my retirement, but didn't have an emergency fund.
Yeah.
So I would have certain things happen and I would actually go to my 401k as my emergency fund. And that was very detrimental at the time. There was a law in place or a rule in place that if you took money out of your 401k, that you wouldn't get your company match for a year, even if you put it back in. So there were just so many mistakes. I was very good at making mistakes. And so I think what we want to do is make sure we take these learnings, that the mistakes people have made, the things that they've done well, and we share that and pass that on.
And the other quick thing I'll add is when you talked about saving, and I think for women I've worked with, women like to have an image of what they're saving for. It's not some obscure thing like it's retirement, but actually, so a vision board is often very helpful. Like I'm saving for this, I'm saving for that. And so, you know, retirement is saving for life. It's not saving for retirement. So I always like to encourage women to have a visual of what it is. But Cindy, I want to go back to you. What would help women? I mean, we've got some excellent resource here, but what would, in your opinion, you guys have great resources up on the website.
Right. Well, we operate the National Resource Center on Women in Retirement, for one thing, which is under the internet address Wiser Women. And I think that's really what women are looking for, is a foundation. They hear all these terms and all the things that they should be doing, and yet they don't have access to the funds or to the plans that, you know, I'm sorry, keep moving this around, that will help you to start. And so that, you know, once women get the information of what will happen down the road, and the poverty statistics, which nobody wants to talk about because that's pretty depressing. But I will tell you, you have women that take their retirement money every time they change a job and they spend it, because they don't even know the repercussions of what that's going to be like in the future. And that's another thing that the compound interest can help you see, that if you take $7,000, it seems like a very small amount, and you're using that to pay off something. If you had put that away or left it with the next employer that you go to, then you'd end up having maybe $100,000 by the time you're 65. So when people hear those numbers, it sort of changes the behavior.
Well, Cindy, what is that big number about all the women over 80 who are in poverty? I mean, that's pretty shocking, right?
Yes, it is. And I'm saying it's been like that for
What is this statistic?
29 years that I've been.
And how
hearing
many,
that.
it's how many women over?
It's almost 50%.
50% of women over 80 are living below the poverty level. I mean, it's just kind of shocking, and there's many reasons for that.
I mean, the
Annamaria,
other thing, I just wanted to say
Oh,
one
yeah.
other thing. Because of the caregiving, there's been studies that are showing that the other fear for women is losing their homes, and the caregivers are the ones who end up losing their homes because they do too much they do too much for the person they're caring for and not for themselves. And
Yeah.
so
and
that
it
puts them
also,
in
like,
jeopardy.
women at older women tend to, if they're in a partnership, in a marriage, that a lot of, if they've married someone of the opposite sex, a man, they tend to spend a lot of the family assets on, if they're older than they are, women tend to marry someone else. A lot of the family assets go to their care. And so a lot of it drains the resources of the family, correct? I mean,
They also underestimate the longevity. That's the big
of how
problem.
long they're actually going to live. Annamaria, back to you a little bit. Can you break us down a little bit about where do we see the barriers for women? Like what is creating some of these issues? We've touched on a bit of it, but you know, the part-time work, the contract, whatever. What have you seen?
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about one very sobering statistics, and I show this picture to my class, in the first class of personal finance, which is that women are paid less, right? But this account over time, and that's the problem. And so interestingly, and this is statistic I also was surprised that at every level of education, women end up having about $1 million less in their lifetime. So it's not just the college educated, but it's also almost everyone. So this being paid less, right, makes women already at a disadvantage, right? And something I want to come back to. The other thing, which is, and it's also part of the longevity, I think, and maybe looking ahead, right? I mean, because we all live longer, we are going to see now probably 4 generations living together, like or overlapping, which is really great. One of the things I miss is I haven't lived enough with my grandparents, for example, and my nieces and so on. Instead, they have parents and great grandparents. But I think for women, this is going to be a challenge, right? Because more and more, and I see this in my experience, we are also going to take care of aging parents. And this will probably take time and take effort or take financial resources and so on. And I just want to mention those 2 things. And there are a lot more barriers in a sense. And of course, also this lack of knowledge and confidence as well is another barrier, because we see, the world is changing, right? And it's becoming more complex and also is bringing us more challenges. So one of the things I want to say is that I think it's incredibly important for women to bargain their salary from the first to the last. I just moved to Stanford a year ago, and I am already thinking I should have asked more. Ask more anytime you can and bargain, because the reality is you're going to be paid less and you are not going to be paid enough. The world is not fair. And this compounds over time. It really does. And, one of the things I've added to my personal finance course is actually a part on bargaining. It's true for everybody, I think, but in particular for women. We know that women do not ask, and this really puts them at a big disadvantage. Again, I don't want to put the pressure on women. It would be great if we have, more equality in the workplace, more flexibility for women and so on. But if you don't have it, you have to take, better to take some action, because I assure you the data is very clear. You're going to end up with $1 million less over your lifetime, right? So resources are important.
What role do you think pay transparency? I mean, it seems to be getting a head of steam across the country. Is this going to help women? I mean, is there some real teeth to this?
It probably does. It will do. But again, I think there are so many opportunities, right? In a sense, maybe you are paid less, but then men are promoted more often.
Yeah.
Right. And so on. And so I think is one useful things to do, but I think, it's probably not going to fix the problem anyway, right? That in a sense, often women have to be aware of the importance of asking, the importance of being their best ambassador, their own advocate, right? Sometimes there are not advocates for you. I mean, I did see that when I had, for example, a chairman of my department, which was a woman, it was much easier, for us to kind of, get some of the benefit and so on. But, it's not always the case. And so I know it's hard, but again, also the cost of $1 million is also a hard cost. The second thing I really want to recommend is what actually she very much talked about in the presentation, which is, I think, is very important to have a plan more than ever, right? Including where I think actually the plan now should include not just, retirement, or I think actually, or the different phases in life, but also the fact that, there will be a time in which we have to take care of our aging parents and so on. as women, we care a lot about, our children, our family, our community. And I think it's very important to have a plan as early as possible. So I think, we have more chances to achieve it, and we have more chances to do what is important for us. I think the word that I would use that is very important, and, if there is a way to summarize it, is financial freedom, right?
Yeah.
Like the opportunity to choose,
Yep.
right? To have that capacity to, make choices.
Yeah, it
and
keeps you
and,
nimble.
And
Yeah.
I think it's, it's easier if we have a plan.
Yeah. And studies repeatedly show that
Yeah,
people
and-
who have taken the time to do
Yeah.
a plan will succeed, because
Absolutely.
no dart throwing.
And the reason why the plan is important is because, again, we don't live in a fair world, right? We spend billions of dollars about making you spend.
Mhm.
We know everything about how we make you spend.
Yeah.
I always tell my students, by the time you exit this classroom and you go to your dorms, you have 5 opportunities to spend, right? No opportunity to save. And we should use all of those tricks to make people also save and achieve financial security, not just to spend, but who is on the other side, who benefits
Yeah.
from our saving, right? And so, without a plan, I can assure you, you're going to spend more than you want.
I love financial freedom. That's what it's all about. JoAnne, back to you here. Tell me, and you mentioned sort of lightly going this route, but what can employers be doing to ramp up financial education for their workers? And then and if you could also just give me are there any policy things that you think would be helpful?
Yeah, I mean, I think what employers can do, and what we work with employers on doing, we work with employers in the nonprofit space, healthcare, education, government nonprofits, is provide access to tools and resources, but to really make sure that you're targeting in on specific needs of different employee groups and age groups and life stages. I mean, one of the things we've been talking about last year, we did some work around Gen X. We found that Gen X is the least confident, most worried, most unlikely to feel like they're going to be able to retire well, and definitely do not want to live to 100 because they don't think it's going to be a positive experience. So what we realized from that is that we need to recognize that Gen X came through a world that didn't have pensions anymore. One of the first generations to fully experience that and had to fully fund it on their own. But at that same time, there weren't any literacy programs.
No.
There weren't really any employer programs around education. And what we can do now is offer a vast array of webinar programs that can be in person, can be on demand, that can talk about how to plan, that can be on specific topics. It doesn't make it a massive, overwhelming how to make sure you retire well, but has specific topics that it can focus in on. To offer programs that are digital, on demand. I think what we really need, though, is to find people who are willing to be disruptors. I mean, what we heard a lot about yesterday was the importance of disruption and innovation. So I think it's finding those organizations that say, I want to try something different with my employee base. Let's try longevity coaching. Let's try some apps that can get them focusing on the multidimensional needs for preparing for a longer life and a better, longer life. And just really trying some new things. I do think that there is a lot being done well. We need to have those examples of who's doing it right, hold them up and look at them. From a policy perspective, just to touch lightly on Secure 2.0, I think that made some progress in really creating some provisions. They are not on their face provisions made to help women improve their lives financially, but they do address scenarios that are very much women-based. They address the student loan issue. Women have much higher student loan debt. The highest student loan debt amount is held by Black women. But student loan debt is not a bad thing. It gets people educated. Education is good. You just need to have a plan on how you get it back, but it does impede the ability to save for the future. So there is now provisions that allow employers to do matching contributions to 401k and 403b plans that are equal to what somebody's paying in student loan debt. Access to retirement plans for part-time workers, that's getting better. Many retirement workers are women, part-time workers are women. So some of these provisions they're making a step forward. There's still a lot more that needs to be done. Much of this is getting it actually implemented. That's been a challenge. We're working on that at Corebridge. And then once it's implemented, getting the actual employees to take action and do something.
I think, JoAnne, when you mentioned that, the thing that excited me the most about this the Secure 2.0 is the auto enrollment in 401k
Yes, yep.
plans. And I think, and the auto escalation.
Yes.
This is huge. And it is huge because it goes back to our inertia thing.
Yeah.
I mean, people, if they're given the option, they don't do anything. And so if they have to decide not
One-
to.
On that, one of the things we're looking at, so that is very important. There is some research that came out of Boston College that's very important. It's not fully driving the needle. So we are really pushing hard at Corebridge to say auto is huge. And we have examples of where it was implemented and enrollment went from 23% to like 86%,
Huge, yeah.
which is huge. But you still need to have that education because people need to continue to contribute as they get older. They need to understand catch-up contributions. So having the auto programs in place and then also doubling down with the advice and the education and the tools, that's really where you're going to see the change.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's true, Cindy.
And the savers match.
Oh, Savers
Savers
Match,
Match,
of course.
That's big.
Yep,
Good one.
yep.
I don't know how many people in the room have ever heard about the savers tax credit.
Why don't you explain it quickly?
There you go.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah, well, say it. Tell us what it
Yeah.
is exactly.
Well, what it did was it gave you a benefit as if your employer gives you a certain match, and then the government will give you a match if you have a certain level of income. And so this will replace that and make a huge difference and not allow you to actually take the money out before retirement. And what's happening right now is that there's several committees and corporate people that are trying to figure out like what the process should be, because the law says that the Treasury people will be the ones who come up with the process of how this will work. So many of us are cringing about that. But
hopeful.
I think the idea that you could get a double match would really help low-income people.
Yeah,
Make-
I think
make a
that's
big
super
difference in a
important.
way that they've never had anything like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing. But Cindy, while I have you here, what are the big retirement risks? You and I have talked about that a little bit over time.
Yeah. Well, inflation, the cost of healthcare for women, especially, they put much more money into healthcare than men do. The loss of a spouse and
Mhm.
figuring that out, and what benefits you'll lose when you do have the loss of a spouse. I have a friend who says she's going to have to put her husband in the closet and keep him there. You know what I mean?
Cindy.
Yeah, so whatever.
Husband on
um,
ice.
Once she found out that, you
But-
you can only collect one Social Security benefit, which is another huge issue, because a lot of times people don't even know that they're going to have Medicare premiums taken out of their Social Security check.
Oh, yeah, that's
people
always a
in this
shock
room-
to people.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
definitely.
Well,
And
it's
retiring too
like
soon.
10% or something. I mean, if
It's
you
a
just
big
take out
ch-
the Medicare premium. it's
But women
terrible.
also retire too soon. They often do, because if they're partnered up, they step out of the workplace too soon, or like you said, a job loss. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty amazing. I want to do we've got 5 minutes or so here. I want to just run down the panel, and if you could just share like what's one piece of advice that you would give to a woman over 50 or something in terms of her financial to establish financial freedom. What's one takeaway that you think would be important? And I'm going to start with you.
So I have one overarching kind of suggestions, which is, like take good care of your finances, right? Finances is really part of being well. And so I think this is critically important, that you really take action, that, in the same way in which you take walk for your health, right? In which you eat well and so on, that you also take care of your financial health. And I would recommend a financial checkup every year. Again, in the same way in which we take care of our health, and we don't know if we do well or not, right? Until we go to the doctor. I think we should have a financial checkup, because, it could be, a lot of problems are silent, right? We don't see them if we don't check upon them, right? So I think this financial checkup is very important, because I don't think it's just one issue, not saving enough for retirement. I think, personal finances are very complex, and they are, and also people might have different objectives. And that's very important. Again, it allows us to have a plan and then know how to potentially achieve that
Yeah,
plan.
it's shifting priorities. I mean, women tend to be more apt to spend on their children than save for their retirement, right? Is that something that you've seen?
Yeah, and again, it might be helpful to figure out, is this a healthy thing to do?
Yeah,
Right,
right,
and
right.
so on. And so I think, that checkup, I think, can be a very important way to keep things in perspective.
Yep, and set goals.
Yeah.
Yep. And
Mhm.
Cindy, what about your takeaways?
Well, I think to know what you have, most of the stories we hear that people just do not succeed because they didn't know. They always say, if only someone had told me. And what it is a lot of times they don't understand the match, or they didn't sign up for the plan. A number of people have come to us where they have 8% going into a retirement plan, but they never signed up. They thought they did, but so I would say to know everything that you have
Yep.
and how it's going to be there for you if you do lose a spouse, if you lose benefits, if you lose health care, and
Yep.
not just wait for it to happen.
And JoAnne, I think you had mentioned that too, the
Yeah.
example you gave of someone who thought they were not signed up for as much as they could have.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but-
I think for me, it's actually exactly what we're all saying up here. And I love that the symbiosis of it, that I would say, don't be afraid. And I'm saying this to me as a woman over 50, don't be afraid to look under the hood and know what's going on, because you have time. There is time. There is opportunity. Fear can just be so disabling, and people won't move forward and look at things. They're afraid to look at their situation because it can be difficult to just even focus on other things. But if you look at a situation and someone's 50, 55, 6 years, if you're going to live to 90 or 100, you still have so much time to make the right choices and to take action and to have compound interest still working for you. It's still go in that direction. And I also kind of want to extend this too to all ages. And I feel extremely hopeful for Gen Z, because I feel like they are learning things that are going to make them the most well-established financially ready group of women, men, all genders, that we have going, because there's so much out there right now. The work that Annamaria is doing, the work that Wiser has done to kind of set the stage for all of this, is that just get moving, take action.
Yep. Thank you. Hey, do we have any questions here? Any online questions, or go ahead? Do we?
There is one question from the online audience, which is, have you seen cases in which employers are sort of using the intersection of sexism and ageism to promote women to leadership position, but in a way that solidifies the gender pay gap?
JoAnne, do you have any thoughts on that?
Say that again. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, if I understand the question correctly, the question is, do you see a phenomena in which employers are promoting women to leadership positions, but sort of to cut costs?
Oh. I'm
Not
gonna
mine,
pull,
had that from the
I'm gonna
online
pull an
data.
Anne Lamott, and I'm gonna say, I don't know.
Yeah. Good
Because
one.
she said I could. Annamaria took it out of her survey, but I'm still using it. I don't know, because I don't really work in the HR aspect of it. I have heard of scenarios where women are put in CEO positions of companies that are failing
Yeah.
because they're the ones who are going to take the fall. I would like to believe that's not the case and that we are making progress. So I'm going to remain hopeful about that, but somebody
Yeah.
else may know more about.
I think that,
Well, I mean, every time I meet someone who's the head of a line of retirement, friends will say she'll be gone within
Oh,
6
goodness.
months or
oh,
whatever.
wow. Yeah.
And that does happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions in the room? Yep.
Thank you, JoAnne, Annamaria, Cindy, and Kerry. It's an interesting panel. My name is Kaushik. I have a couple of questions. I'll start with JoAnne here. So one of them is, I look at aging as a global issue. It's more of a global problem. And it's a cultural issue as well. We can talk a little bit. So JoAnne, one is, what is the art and science of aging? One of them is, the science of aging is, we physically take care of ourselves. We are fit and healthy. But the art of it, I look at it as more of a mental health issue. And that can start from the time I'm out of the hospital, literally, you know?
Yeah.
So, and how does that play a part in how one can plan for that? Because this is one of those things that's beyond our control. That's how I feel. I call it the art and science of it. So I'm not sure if it fits into this discussion. Please feel free to ignore if it doesn't.
I mean, I think it all fits into discussion. We did have a conversation at dinner last night because we were talking about aging for 2 days, and we were saying, what is ageism? It's kind of like when you say a word over and over and over, right? Does it still, what is the meaning of it? And there was a gentleman on the panel earlier, the one on the different generations, and he spoke about in his mind, he's a 14-year-old, you know, like he's got that enthusiasm. So I think so much of age is internalized in what we do. I mean, it's how we feel about ourselves. I look in the mirror and I see 30-year-old JoAnne. You know, all the time, whether that's good or bad, it is what it is. So I think the art, the science and culture of aging, I might flip that to one of my panel mates over here too. But I do think so much of it is internal. And I will say from a Corebridge standpoint, we really are challenging what aging is. And that's why if you look at all of our materials and the different, just the brand that we put out there, it's always people doing positive things, taking action, being involved, being engaged, because we don't want to go with the old tropes of what aging looks like. You know, AARP was saying how they are coming out with a whole new suite of images, which I'm very excited to see, that position people very differently at different ages than they have in the past.
Thank you. With respect to culture, I'm interested in this because depending on which part of the world you're in, whether Southeast Asia, and you're from Italian heritage, so, you know, we kind of sort of deal with the same thing. When you go into that family, you know, you're in the Cartman triangle of drama for the most part. So what happens is the expectations that come with certain generations, especially if you're a Gen X, that you would take care of, you know, your parents and how it used to be with the previous generation. How does this translate into future generations, and what's the plan for that?
Yeah, it's hard to know, like, you know, I cannot tell you from the data because frankly, I don't think we are even incorporating this into our models yet. Kind of this idea that, you know, we all live longer and therefore there are actually more choices to be made. And I actually think that, you know, even though part is culture, I actually do think that, you know, many women probably do want to take care of others around themselves. You know, I don't know if it is some culture maybe make it even a stronger constraint and so on. But, you know, there are considerations to be made for that just because of the longevity part. And I think we, you know, we incorporate this more because I don't think it's even sometime in the plan of a financial advisor or so on. So I think we are better, you know, be more proactive about that.
And I think we're out of time, actually. Are we, Martha, are we? Yep.
Yes, we are out of time. So thank you again. Topic near and dear, close to my heart.
Thank you.
So